Joyce Brenton. Welcome to a class about forgiveness. You're probably wondering, what the heck does forgiveness have to do with muscle testing? Believe it or not, it has a whole lot to do with muscle testing. You think about your day to day. Is there anybody you took offense at today? Could be somebody at your house, could be somebody at work, could be somebody on the road. I don't know about you, but I personally take offense at people on the road, especially if they honk at me or flip me off or run me off the side of the road. I take offense. I don't like that. I don't like people who get mad at me. There are people I take offense with somehow, some way, on a daily basis. And if you don't, that's awesome. I'm working on that one. So what we're going to do today is talk about forgiveness, what it is, what it isn't, and ways that it works with muscle testing. When you take offense at somebody, well, for instance, somebody driving down the road. If someone's driving down the road and they run me off the road, or they scoot over into my lane and I have to move into the other lane, I get offended and I get agitated inside. And when that happens, I don't really want it to run my day. I don't really want to go through the rest of my day being upset by a person who ran me off the road. So what I say right there in the car while I'm there is, I forgive that person for running me off the road. And then I say, I forgive myself for being offended at that person and for being upset by what they did. Sounds simple. Does it make it all go away? Yes and no. Sometimes when it's a simple thing like that. Now there may be other things that have taken place in your life that has caused a great deal of offense. For example, a form of abuse. If somebody's abused you in some way or another, you're going to be offended. You are going to be affected and impacted by that in some way. Therefore, you will carry through until you forgive. You will carry that around with you. I've known many situations with clients where they have even become sick because they have not let go of or forgiven somebody who has offended them in some way. So a little bit about what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is letting go of your fear and your interpretation of what happened. Now, you know, we've talked about the circles, what happens, what we make up about what happens, what we feel from it, and our reactions to that. When you forgive, you are letting go of your fear and your interpretation of what actually happened. What it does not condone what happened. For instance, if somebody you know who's close to you, anybody, has abused you in some form, any of your boundaries, has violated your emotional boundary, your physical boundary, your intellectual boundary, your spiritual boundary, if they've violated any of those boundaries in any form, then there has been a part of you that has been impacted and taken offense at that incident. Therefore, when you forgive, it does not condone the act that took place, okay? It does not make what happened okay. But it does help you to let go of your condemnation of that person or yourself. It also does not obligate you to befriend or like that perpetrator or the abuser. If you forgive somebody, it doesn't mean you have to turn around and go be their best friend, okay? But it does free you up from anger and rage and trauma for the event that was imposed upon you. The forgiveness actually frees you up from experiencing the emotions that you felt from that trauma, okay? It does not obligate you to associate with the abuser or the perpetrator. It does not help say to you, okay, if I forgive this person, then that means I've got to go to the movies with them next week, or I got to go to lunch with them next week, okay? Even if it's a family member, I don't care. And a lot of times it is a family member who becomes an abuser or perpetrator. Could be a good friend. It could be our neighbors. But it does not mean you got to go have lunch with them next week. It does not mean that you have to like or agree with what happened. Okay? These are what forgiveness are not. When you forgive, it does not mean you condone the act. It does not mean you have to be a friend with the person who you're offended by. It does not mean that you have to like what happened. It does not mean that those people who abused you are not responsible for their actions. What it does mean is that you then have freedom from judgment and condemnation of others. It also means that you are releasing punishment for that person and restitution to God. It's not your job. It's not your job to punish them. It's not your job to make sure that they suffer because of what they did. When you forgive, it frees you up from that condemnation. And it creates space for healing. It gives you room for healing. Many times, I don't know if there's something around. Maybe I can grab some here. Sorry about that. We'll just pretend this is something I haven't forgiven of, okay? I carry this around in my pocket forever. I get to carry this around attached to me in some way or form forever until I forgive. Once I forgive, I don't have to carry that anymore. It's not mine. I don't get to carry that. I don't want to carry that. And it's not on me as baggage. We carry things around as long as we don't forgive. We can carry them as long as our whole entire lifetime. There are things I took offense at when I was 3 years old. That abuse that I went through in my family. Those things still show up in my life until I have actually forgiven the perpetrator that took place with. So there may be things where we say, oh, I've forgotten that. That's over, that's past. Maybe you did forget it. Maybe you did push it under the rug. But if it comes up and it shows up in other relationships every time you turn around, and if it shows up anywhere else in your life, you have not forgiven and you have not let go of that. So forgiveness is a huge conversation in muscle testing. When we muscle test individuals, we will ask if there's a person that they've been offended by, if there's somebody that they have taken offense with, or something that's taken place in their life that they did not resolve. We'll ask who that person might be. We might ask about the incident. We never present to the person what that incident could be. We let that person present it themselves. And then we ask the time frame of when that took place. And then we ask, is this an appropriate time to forgive? Forgiveness happens, it's a gift of God, in my opinion. And when we forgive, we are able to literally release and let go of the anger, resentment, sadness, fear, all of the things that are based around that incident where we took offense. When we actually will say forgivenesses, we are releasing that and turning that over. Really easy statements, and you'll get these handouts for your class. One of the best statements that you can always use on a daily basis and always remember is, I forgive this person, and name the incident, for this thing, and then you forgive yourself for the incident. I'll use an example about the guy driving down the road. I say, sitting in my car, I forgive that man for offending me for driving me off the side of the road. Or I forgive that man for honking at me. Or I forgive that woman for being too close to me in the car. Or I forgive that person for running the red light. And then I forgive myself. And the next part of that statement is, I forgive myself for being offended. Or I forgive myself for being angry. Or I forgive myself for taking offense at what happened and what that person did. So forgiveness creates the space for healing. When you forgive, you literally let go and allow your heart and your whole being to start to forgive or start to heal and recognize what's open for you. When you think about if you've been harboring something for a long time, if you have been holding on to something for a long time and it's weighing on you, different things will happen within the body in response to that. And as you free yourself up through forgiveness, then you will probably become healthier, not only mentally and emotionally, but also physically. The healing that takes place from forgiveness affects the entire whole being. One of the things that I've recognized with forgiveness is that it also has a timing. And there are some things that take place that we're not quite ready to forgive. And that is the other part of you letting go and letting that be part of God's timing. There may be something that's fresh that just happened. Somebody may have hurt one of your children. Somebody may have hurt or offended you, or personally, or one of your loved ones. And if that's something that just took place, I had a friend actually whose son was shot and killed recently. I don't think that that's something that she's automatically going to turn right around and say, oh, I forgive that person. Now, I know some people have done such a thing. For her, I know that this is a time and a process, and that that's going to take place over time, her forgiveness. And so one of the main things to really remember is that this is something you could say on a daily basis. You've met my husband in these classes, now you've met me. We don't have the perfect relationship. And there are many times where I take an offense at him, probably on a daily basis. Either it's a look, it's a comment, a roll of the eyes, whatever it might be. And I make an interpretation about whatever that look or response was. Generally, what I'll say now is, would you like to know what my response is to that look you just gave me? This was my interpretation of it. But also what I have done is, I don't say this to him in person. I'll go up to my room or I'll go to another room and I'll simply say, I forgive Steve for da-da-da-da-da. And then I forgive myself for the offense I took at that. Is it completed and is it all better and all gone away? No, but you know what it is? It takes a wind out of the sails. I'm no longer harboring this incredible whatever it might be. And sometimes it's a really simple thing. Sometimes it's heavier. But I'm no longer carrying that with me. I am no longer feeling like, oh, I'm so mad, I don't even want to see his face anymore. I don't have that whenever I say forgiveness. It takes some of the juice out of that. So forgiveness is powerful. And as you learn to use the muscle testing, it's one of the biggest ways that we use to release energy is through forgiveness. And as people forgive, energy is released from their body and they are able to actually be free and literally feel a freedom and a floating and a calmness and a more peace because they have forgiven. So as you're learning the muscle testing, you will realize that forgiveness, this is a huge part of the process. So look over your notes, remember what it is, what it isn't. Forgiveness is not condone what happened. It does not obligate you or obligate or require you to befriend the person or the abuser. It also does not mean you have to like them. Go have lunch with them next week, okay? It doesn't mean that people are not accountable. But what it does mean is you get to let go of your fear, your interpretation of what happened. It also means you get to let go of your condemnation of yourself. How many of you, when you get mad at somebody, are mad at yourself? Absolutely. At least I do, unless I'm really abnormal. But when I get upset with somebody, I do get mad at myself. So forgiveness also helps you to let go of your condemnation of yourself. Okay? It gives you freedom from anger, from rage, from trauma, from the event that was actually imposed upon you. It also gives you freedom from judgment and condemnation of others towards you. And then it releases the punishment and restitution to God. It's not yours. Let God take care of that one. And it creates huge space for healing. So try it out. Next time you get offended at somebody, sit down and just simply say, I forgive this person for this, and I forgive myself for taking this offense. So that's it for forgiveness. Have a good week.